Right, I'm going to give you 12 options for things that you should be doing instead of lying in bed awake at night. If you're new, this is all part of my mission to help normal people with busy lives get the best sleep possible and wake feeling refreshed. Okay, we're starting off with a zinger. The first one is watch TV. What? Yeah, that's right, you can watch TV. Hear me out. So if you're tossing and turning in bed and frustrated and anxious that you're not getting to sleep, I want you to get out of your bed, get out of your bedroom preferably, and yeah, you can pop the telly on, and here's why. The first key point is that you want the activities you engage in to be enjoyable but not stimulating. So if we were to plot a graph of how enjoyable an activity was against how stimulating it was, you might find that different activities fall on different points along this spectrum. What you find is that as you get activities that are more and more enjoyable, they end up becoming more and more stimulating, which isn't a good thing for sleep. As you move from neutral to only mildly enjoyable activities, the increase is quite shallow. Whereas, unsurprisingly, as you get into more and more enjoyable activities, it ends up becoming much more mentally stimulating. So this is our sweet spot. These activities that are just mildly enjoyable end up being quite calming, actually. On the flip side of things, once you get into that unenjoyable territory, you find that quite rapidly things become extremely stimulating. And when you look at it as a whole, you see that this forms sort of an asymmetrical U-shape. So if you're going to watch something, maybe try and stick with something fairly predictable or banal. Something like the Weather Channel or an infomercial channel, or you can even watch kids' TV shows as they tend to have quite positive messages and be relatively entertaining. In a similar vein, there are other activities that follow this same sort of idea of slightly enjoyable but not overstimulating. You might want to create a list of activities that you might enjoy doing on a weekend or on a holiday somewhere. Again, this is quite a mildly enjoyable activity, and you get to simply jot down a little list of things that you might like to do. The other good thing is that it's detached from reality, so money's not a problem, time's not a problem, just create a simple list. Number 3 is knitting or other arts and crafts. Now, I don't knit, but if you're the sort of person who can just sort of sit there quite happily and twiddle your sticks, that didn't sound right. Knitting needles. Again, it tends to be one of those enjoyable activities that you can kind of do in the background without much thinking. It tends to rely on muscle memory, so that tends to be quite a good thing. Knitting's also great because if you can do it, it's the sort of thing that you can just pick up where you left off and put down and leave to the side once you want to finish with it. Number 4 is call friends or family in another time zone. Now, I've put this in the category of enjoyable but not overstimulating. Now, I would say the only caution here is that this can be an extremely stimulating activity, particularly if you're speaking to someone, a friend or a family member, who you haven't spoken to in a long time and you just want to catch up. But if you're able to keep it fairly relaxed and you know you're not going to get into an argument with this person, then this can be a really good use of time, particularly as the time difference probably works in your favour. The next activity is just flicking through catalogues or magazines. And the key point here is that pre-prepared material is ideal. This is one of those rare situations where being a mindless consumer of content is completely acceptable. And it's most likely actually beneficial because the least effort that you can put into an activity, the better. What you don't really want to be doing is doing any new creative journaling or starting any new creative projects. Okay, so the next one is listening to instrumental music. So this can be classical music, jazz, world music, folk music. It could be some of those lo-fi hip-hop beats that you sometimes can get as background music. The brilliant thing about this is that in this day and age, you can literally just say, "Hey Google, play some classical music," and it should.
Alright, here's the Spotify playlist called Classical Essentials.
Alright, so number 7 is reading fiction. Okay, so this is something I've been trying to do a lot more of myself, but having a fiction book on the go can be such a nice thing. One of the great things about fiction books is that they're naturally split into little sections that we call chapters. And the great thing about this is that it allows the reader these little breaks in between the chapters to think. And in the context of you not being able to sleep at night, a little break, just have a little moment to think, am I sleepy? Is a really good opportunity to decide whether or not you want to get back into bed. It doesn't really matter whether the answer is yes or no, but it's good to have this opportunity to decide whether sleep has arrived. The same applies to TV shows as well. A single episode of something light and upbeat is a much better option than watching a 3-hour action thriller at 2 a.m. Number 8 is clearing away a coffee table or tidying up a drawer. Now, this might seem really boring and like I'm forcing you to do chores in the middle of the night, and that's not at all my intention. But choosing a specific small space allows you to complete a dedicated task that is bite-sized without it feeling overwhelming. This also falls into another category of activities that can be really good when you can't sleep at night. These are the organizing and sorting activities. So another example of this is folding and putting away clothes. So if you're anything like me, there is always a pile of clothes somewhere in your house or apartment that is waiting to be folded and waiting to be put away. Again, this is a really boring thing to be doing in the middle of the night, but that's a good thing. And it really doesn't require much brain power at all, and you sort of just go through the motions. The great thing about sorting and organizing is that the order already exists. It's a bit like sorting a pack of cards by suit. So you've got your hearts, your diamonds, your clubs, and your spades. And sorting a shuffled deck of cards into their respective suits is just a matter of placing the right one in the right pile. But for some of you, everything I've been saying up to now ignores the fact that you cannot escape your thoughts. If that's you, don't worry, there are 2 activities that I would recommend, and they both revolve around creating a safe space for your thoughts. The first is meditation. Now, many people find meditation practices helpful in quietening a busy mind. Now, within this, there are specific practices such as mindfulness and acceptance and commitment therapy, to name a few, that can be really helpful in restoring a sense of calm and of purposeful awareness about the current moment and about the day that's just passed. The only thing I'd say about meditation is, although it can be a really powerful tool, it often just requires a bit of practice before people see the benefit for their sleep. Another safe space for your busy thoughts can be journaling. Journaling can be a really good way of getting the thoughts that are running through your head down onto paper. Keep sentences simple, just a line or 2 for each thought, and when you're done, close your notebook and put it aside. Finally, you can stay in bed if you really want to. Everything I've said up to this point has been based on the idea that you should get out of bed, and ideally out of your bedroom if you can't sleep. And for the most part, that's probably what you should do. But staying in bed if you have to can be an option. Because if you're lying in bed in a state of calm, even if you're not sleeping, that time spent resting can be hugely beneficial for the body. It's been shown that resting like this in bed can actually lower levels of the stress hormone cortisol. The main problem comes in when you start getting really panicked and upset that you're not sleeping. If you can reframe that time spent awake in bed as time spent in restful calm, it can be great, and it's not time wasted. And in a way, that's the key, because part of the secret sauce of all of these activities is the ability to give yourself the permission to be awake, because sleep happens when you are calm and content. And there's so much more to unpack here. So for more videos on how to develop a quiet mind and other videos on sleep habits, you might want to take a look here and here. But until next time, bye bye.